it up. It's The Record Machine with your host, Jimmy Howell.
Simple things I don't remember how to turn the lights on when my friends come round here. What is it they say? How when this is over, we'll do all the things we didn't make time to before. Oh, the simple things that simple things that I did them before, I'll do them again. They passed us by while we were dreaming way out west. Now every day is a letter I could never send, but I'll still write it down because it's all that we have left, and I miss the simple things. Naked faced, I greet a stranger. Our eyes are locked together, passing on the street. Then we disappear. Oh, no second glances. Everything we know exchange, never again to meet. Oh, simple things that simple things that I did them before, I'll do them again. They passed us by while we were dreaming way out west. Now every day is a letter I could never send, but I'll still write it down because what do we have left except simple things? Leave or stay, it makes no difference. I will always be ready. We will have all year. Show me blue, show me gray, it still makes no difference. I remember how to see the sky, fearless and clear. So simple things that simple things that and if we do them again, we'll get it right because it's all that we have left. And all these letters I could never send. Well, I used to be so sure, and now my heart is on the mend. So I'll dream, walk into a dream, walk into a dream. So I'll dream, I'll walk into a dream of simple things.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome singer-songwriter Jon Martin to the program. So how you doing, John?
Not too bad. How are you?
It's warm here today. I'm in North Myrtle Beach. It's about 75 degrees still. So.
Oh wow.
Where you at?
I'm in Edmonton, Alberta. And so let me just do a quick. I'm good with most imperial and metric conversions, but I don't have my weather down. from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So it is 54 degrees Fahrenheit here.
That's not too bad.
No, it's pretty nice. It's overcast, starting to get some leaves on the trees and some buds and all that. So looking forward to breaking out of a Canadian winter.
Now, did you grow up there your whole life?
No, I actually just moved to Edmonton last year in the fall. I grew up in a place called Lethbridge, Alberta, which is about 300 miles south of here, kind of at the foot of the Rocky Mountains, north of Montana.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Now,
So-
tell me about your musical background. At what age did you start playing and singing music?
I wanted to start when I was younger, but I didn't. I didn't end up getting around to getting a guitar or anything till I was about 16. So I guess that's comparatively late, I suppose, for I don't know, our modern age of kids starting playing instruments at 3 years old and stuff. I guess my kid included. It's like there are instruments around because I don't want him to regret starting later in life than he could have or whatever. So I started when I was about 16, just kind of playing with a friend, and it was the resources on the internet were a little bit light, and so I kind of at that time, and so I basically taught myself to play guitar and sing from listening to records and, you know, emulating heroes and doing all that stuff.
Very cool. Who were some of your influences?
Early on, I remember I was jamming with a friend of mine, and I guess this is like this would be a very, very early influence. And there were two main things that kind of stick out in my memory. One of them was he was showing me a Nirvana record that was a live Nirvana record, and I was like, wow, what is that? And my brother listened to Pantera and Slayer and stuff like that, and my parents listened to Neil Young and a Canadian band called the Rankin Family, another Canadian called Gordon Lightfoot, a great singer-songwriter, sort of like the Canadian Bob Dylan that isn't Leonard Cohen. But anyway, so I kind of had these two weird influences from the family, but not really anything that was mine or whatever. And so my friend showed me this live record, and I was like, what was that? And he told me the name, and I forgot about it. And so I went to the record shop to go buy this live Nirvana record, and didn't really know anything else about them. And so I just asked them for the live Nirvana record. And so what I wanted was, or what I thought I was getting was one called, I think it's Live at the Muddy Banks of the Wishkah, or something like that. And what they actually gave me was Nirvana Unplugged. And so then it was like, okay, well, I just bought this CD. That's the one I had. And I listened to it, and I was like, this isn't like, you know, I don't know, like a punk rock record like Muddy Banks of the Wishkah is. And it was something totally different, and that record ended up being really influential because, I don't know, I found something that connected with me in it at that point in my life. And then I guess the other very, very early influence would be going to another used record shop, and I hadn't ever really knowingly listened to the Beatles, and I saw a German version of the record Help, and I was like, this is the right record for me. Maybe I was having a weird week or something like that, and I bought it. And so those two records, I feel like, probably started me on my bizarre musical path, I suppose, when I was a teenager.
Very cool. Speaking of records, you got a new one coming out in May titled "This Could Be Our Year." Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. This is guess I've got two singles off of the record. One just came out last week, and then I kind of rushed the schedule for the next one. Another single's coming out on May 6th, and then the record's coming out on May 20th. And it was kind of a record for me that, like, I'm trying to think of where to start here, because it's kind of, there's a whole like path that kind of led to that record shouldn't have been made, I suppose. But with COVID and having a kid and moving and all of these things came together to kind of make the record happen. So I guess just in 2018, I guess, and 2019, I'd started a new band called Jon Martin and Lovers, and we were doing an Americana thing that was kind of like alt country Americana. Spent some time writing this record. We were working on the record, booking for festivals, and kind of had this plan to have what year did the pandemic start? Was it 2019 or 2020?
2020 of March.
20, yeah, I can never remember if it's 19 or 20. Yeah, so we started in 19, and then 2020 was going to be like the year for that band. I had got a really good group of players together, a really great like kind of lead guitar player, and booked for some big festivals, all of these things lined up, and it was going to be like an amazing, incredible year, the year that you always want. And it's like I've had a few bands in the past and different projects, and so I kind of knew where those missteps were and what I wanted to do with this group specifically to kind of like get where I wanted to be with it. And then, so of course, as everybody was affected in different ways, this band was kind of decimated by having all of the all the festivals canceled. Mm-hmm. In the city Lethbridge where I was, I had a recording studio there too, so I was making records for other people. But then all of a sudden, we didn't know what was going on. Was it safe to be in the studio? Nobody wanted to do shows. And all of that. And so the band was basically on pause. And so, at that point, we didn't know how long this was going to go on for or anything. And I was actively writing for this record. And so it was like, okay, well, let's reconvene in a couple of weeks or a couple of months or whatever. And I just kept writing. And of course, COVID didn't go away. And, eventually I hit a point where I was like, well, these aren't Jon Martin and Lovers songs. And I guess I should, for anybody that's interested, there are 2 Jon Martin and Lovers songs that are out. One's called Young Hearts and the other's called Here Right Now. And so we released those kind of as early singles to lead up to the record. And all of a sudden I was writing songs. I'm like, I don't know if this is I don't know where this fits because it isn't a Jon Martin and Lovers song, but still working towards that as a project. And then eventually I hit a point where I was like, well, I have to do something with this batch of songs. And, but the studio's closed. And so, what's going to happen? Like, how am I going to make this work? And, I guess kind of in the interim, we were having a baby in May of 2020. And so we were doing that. I was working from home. We were kind of, I don't know, it felt like a pretty big a time of significant change or whatever for me. Mm-hmm. And so I kept writing, and all of these songs kind of started piecing themselves together as a record. And I wasn't writing specifically for a record. I mean, for the Jon Martin and Lovers record, which we're still going to finish. And I think it's going to be neat because we're finishing it kind of like after the fact, even though I wrote it before this record. But I wrote the title track called This Could Be Our Year, and that's the one that came out last week. And all of a sudden I kind of knew what the record was about and where I was going and how all of these things were connected together. Mm-hmm. And so as I was working on it, we ended up, my wife got a job in Edmonton where I am now. And we kind of packed up the house that we had been in for 10 years and moved to a different city and a whole different life and left everything. And so it was this, and then, actually becoming a father and all of those things really changed kind of my perspective and thinking about what's important and what's not important and how things fit together. And, and so that's kind of what was fueling the record. And then I'm going back to, I guess it would be maybe, I think I started at the end of 2020. I had to start to figure out how I was going to record these songs. And so I've made records in the past where I just played all of the instruments and did that, but that felt kind of insular, and this wasn't that kind of record. I didn't want to play drums on it, and I wanted some other influences and everything. And so I found it's kind of like a collective and I guess it's technically a service, but it's almost like crowd-funded studio musicians. And so it's called Musiversal, and it's a service where they hire musicians from all over the world to do remote recording, and you kind of pay in. And then, I mean, the model's kind of changed over the last couple of years, but you basically like buy in for however many sessions and in whatever the given time period is, and then you use them or you don't, and however you use them is up to you. And so I was like, well, what the hell? I'm like, let's give this a try, even if I can use this to figure out the drums, because that was the most kind of not daunting, but it's the most time-consuming task for me was to do drums. So I want a good drummer, and so skip forward a year later, I'd gone through probably like 100 sessions with people from maybe 7 or 8 countries around the world.
Wow.
And did my parts, and then basically did live Zoom sessions, and then produced the session from there and collaborated with them, and got to work with some really great people from Rio de Janeiro and quite a few from London in the UK, and a great drummer in Denver and a bass player in New York, and just kind of all over the place. And so it was really great. And so I made this record with people from all over the world based on this big period of change. And that's kind of what This Could Be Our Year. That's what it became. It became that.
Oh, so very cool. Well, this podcast is going to feature 2 of your tracks, Simple Things and This Could Be Our Year. What's the story behind those 2 songs?
So Simple Things, I remember writing that. It would have been in March of 2021, because it was right when we started, where there was like a very short window of time when it was kind of like there was a lot of hope and optimism about vaccines and about getting back to normal and all of that stuff. And so and I started to think about, I've been working at home for a year. I haven't seen anybody really but my family while making this record and doing all this. It's like I don't even know, how do I do all of these things that I used to do, like all this stuff. How do I talk to friends? How do you have someone over? How do you do that? And so that song kind of fell out of me pondering kind of how I was going to interact with my new environment and social situations, because it really felt like I didn't know how to do it anymore, because I found a new routine and a new comfort level and all of that stuff. And so that's what Simple Things is about. And then This Could Be Our Year, that was a little bit different. I actually don't even remember how I started writing the song. Sometimes for me anyway, I know everybody has a different process. You can labor over a song for, weeks, months, sometimes it's just one line in a song you can't get, or a bridge that you don't like or something. And then other times you kind of sit down and then you get up 15 minutes later and all of a sudden you have this song that's finished and you don't really know where it came from or anything. And it just kind of falls or spills out onto the page in front of you. And This Could Be Our Year was one of those songs, and which I always like, because I feel like it separates my left and right brain. So I'm not thinking about it. It's just kind of an expression that ends up in a song, which is maybe the most interesting for me as the writer to listen to, because I feel like you just kind of catch the song out of the air instead of, really thinking about laboring over structure or specific, maybe like a rhyme or something like that. And it's about me, about my reflection on thinking about. I was really bummed out with the Jon Martin and Lovers 2020 that got canceled, because that was like there was a specific Canadian folk festival, and a folk festival there's a folk festival circuit in Canada, and those I think are kind of like the creme de la creme of shows to play. The organizers treat you like gold. You get to see all your friends from all over the country who are playing there. You get to see other great music, and it's not all folk music. The music's kind of all over the map, but it's just a really exciting and vibrant thing that happens in the summer in Canada. And there's one in basically every major city, but it's also kind of the thing where it's not the easiest to get in on that circuit. And so I had one of them I had a tentative booking for, and that got canceled, and I was bummed about that, because that was my goal with the Jon Martin Lovers band, was to kind of enter that circuit. And then there were a few other things that happened that kind of I was kind of like sad and upset about. And then I thought about it, and I kind of was looking at my situation where I have a beautiful, healthy son, and my wife was healthy, and we were all, there are people in a lot worse shape than we are. And so I was kind of thinking about, privilege isn't the right word, but just kind of an appreciation for all the things that were going on that were really positive. And so I thought, instead of thinking about about my whole situation or about that situation. Like, oh man, you know, the pandemic sucks and this is bad and this was an awful time or whatever. Maybe that year is going to be the best year that you're going to have. And I was thinking about people complaining about 2018 being a terrible year, and I don't even remember why. I think maybe there was a lot of stuff burnt down. There's some big fires in 2018, and you know, the basic stuff like celebrity deaths and everything, all this, and you know, stuff that maybe it's not trivial at all, but everybody thought 2018 was the end of the world. And then, you know, there were a few bad years ahead of that. And so I started thinking, what if this year is actually a great year? What if it's amazing and we don't even realize it? And so that song, This Could Be Our Year, is kind of me sort of tongue-in-cheek looking at that and saying, hey, you know, like, what the hell? Maybe this is our year. Like, why don't we just make this our year and flip your perspective and just kind of look at things differently? And it kind of captures, I guess, what somebody told me was bittersweet optimism that exists in my song. So they're kind of sad, but they're, you know, maybe on the surface they appear to be, you know, happy or whatnot, but they're actually kind of like, there's a little bit of sadness framed as happiness or whatever. And so that song is about reframing perspective. I guess I could have just answered it like that. That song's about reframing perspective.
It's a great song. I love it. I noticed on your Facebook page, Jon Martin Music, and that's John, Jon, you posted the video for This Could Be Our Year. Do you enjoy shooting the video as much as recording the song?
The video, I actually, that video is funny. So I actually had a whole plan, maybe about I guess it would have been about 4 weeks ago, to shoot a totally different video for that song. And I was in Prague in the Czech Republic, and I was my job that isn't music or music production is I work for an environmental NGO doing communications and strategic planning and stuff. And I was presenting some actually pretty interesting stuff that I'm doing with ambisonic audio and VR kind of like training or whatever in watershed areas. Doesn't matter. I was there for that, and then spent a couple days there. My brother was with me, and I was rapid testing every day to make sure I wouldn't have any issues coming home. And I went to go get my return to Canada PCR test. And even though 10 minutes before my rapid test was negative, my PCR test came back positive. And so I got to have a forced 10-day extra long vacation in Prague, which also kind of overlapped the time period that I like the schedule for me doing this video and everything. So kind of in the spirit of the record, I thought, well, what the hell? I've got to isolate in this hotel, and then I'm going to have a couple days. And so I had a camera with me, and so I went around and shot that video kind of super DIY and did it myself. And then I put it together, and that's the video. So I guess that's the really long answer of saying I like doing video, and it's fun, and I feel like you can add a lot of dimension, especially to music, by kind of supplementing the story, even if it's just with colors, you know, like that video. I thought the thing that I like the most about that video is actually the kind of like muted but colorful tones outside of the image, but just the actual color. And so when I was watching it, like I showed it to my wife, and I typically don't show unfinished work to anybody, but I showed it to her, and she gave me some feedback and stuff about it. And so while she was watching it, I was kind of sitting there half nervously, like, okay, well, you know, waiting for her to tell me what she thought. And I was almost having the experience of seeing it for the first time because somebody else was there watching it with me. And that's almost something that happens with music production and mixes all the time. If I'm working on something, I hear it a certain way. As soon as somebody else is in the room with you, it's like you experience it a completely different way. All of a sudden, you know, you see it as kind of a different person, not somebody who's been working on it for however long. And I had that experience with the video, and I wasn't sure. I asked her, I said, is this stupid? Like, should I actually release this video? Like, what do you think? And she had some comments and stuff about it. And I mean, obviously I did release the video, but in doing that, I had that experience of realizing that I thought it enhanced the song and kind of like my artistic intention with the song, but with video. So in that way, I guess making videos is rewarding.
Yeah, it came out pretty cool. Outside of music, what are your interests?
Well, that's a good question. I guess I do. Most of my free time is spent being a daddy or doing something in relation to music, and I guess it kind of always has. So I mean, if I'm not playing an instrument, because it's almost like, well, it's like, what are my interests? It's like playing guitar. And a couple years ago, just before, I guess it would have been 2018, I hurt my wrist playing guitar in a country band, and doctor said, you have to stop playing guitar. You're not going to be able to play guitar anymore. So I bought this piano off the internet and learned how to play piano because I needed to use different muscles and tendons or I was going to screw them up for life. And which is actually the piano that I wrote the whole album of This Could Be Our Year on. So it's like, that's an interest, playing piano, and then mixing records is a whole nother interest. And I do some production work. Like I'm actually after doing the This Could Be Our Year record with people from all over the world, I thought, well, there are people that I know, artists who were in Lethbridge where I used to live, who still want to make records with me, but I can't physically be there. So why can't I produce records the same way that I produced my own record over the internet? And so now I have live Zoom sessions and we talk about it and work on arrangements and lyrics. And so it's like that, doing music production is an interest. I also read quite a bit, I guess, if that counts as a hobby. I don't know if I have any hobbies, actually. That's kind of weird. Yeah. If I think about it, it's like it doesn't, I feel like I'm busy all the time, but I don't have anything where it's like, I like to go jogging. You know, if that's a hobby, or
painting or gardening, stuff like that, fishing. Those are all like things that, or some people would do outside music, right?
Yeah, I guess painting. Going back to my teenage years, I was actually quite a prolific painter, and I had lots and lots and lots of painting on big giant canvases. And I was offered a scholarship to a very, very prestigious art school that I didn't end up taking because I didn't want to move to Vancouver, where the art school is. And then I realized that you need space to paint, because you can't. When I was painting, it wasn't something where I wouldn't just work on one painting for 2 months and then stop and then start another painting, because I was doing mostly oil painting and some acrylic, but oil takes literally weeks to dry. And so I would set up, I'd have 6 or 7 paintings on the go at all times. And then eventually, you move into an apartment or a small house or whatever. And I didn't have room for painting anymore. So I kind of had to stop. And there's an electroacoustic album that I released a few years ago. And I actually painted the cover of that. I guess a few years ago. It was probably like 12 years ago. But yeah, so maybe
cool.
It inspired me to start painting again.
Maybe.
I have space here to start painting. I'd really like to.
That's awesome. Do you have a website you'd like to promote?
The main website I would like to promote, I guess everything is on Jon Martin, JONMARTIN.ca. That's my main artist website. My videos are on there. Some of the music's on there. Yeah, I'm also have a Facebook page, of course, called Jon Martin Music, and on Instagram, I'm Jon Martin _music person. The other thing that I guess is the most, and I don't know if people know this actually, but Spotify statistics and numbers are of significant importance when you're booking and doing all of that stuff. And so the best thing people can do to help in this dystopian hellscape that we live in now is actually following an artist page on Spotify. So if you want to find my Jon Martin, and there are a few Jon Martins on Spotify, but if you search Jon Martin, This Could Be Our Year, find my artist page and follow that, or add the songs to your library. That's a great way to stay in touch, and it really does actually help artists for local shows and festivals and all kinds of stuff. So I guess those would be the websites I'd like to promote.
Awesome. Is there anything you'd like to mention that we didn't talk about today?
That's a really great question too. I don't think so. I mean, I've had a good response to the songs that have come out so far. So I mean, If you're listening to this and listen to my music, I guess the only thing I'd like to say is thank you, because I do appreciate when outside of the numbers and the booking and the kind of logistical side of music, I really appreciate that something that I made in the mountains in Canada by myself with these other people connects with somebody else somewhere around the world, and I think that's amazing. And I think looking at kind of what our new, what music looks like now in terms of kind of like a post-media stage where you're not selling necessarily vinyl or CDs or anything like that. I think that that's the coolest part about streaming, is finding some little piece, some little thing that somebody's worked on halfway across the world and seeing how there's a common human element. And I think that's wild. So if that's you, thank you. So I guess that would be the only other thing I'd like to mention.
Awesome. Well, John, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really dig those tunes, and I can't wait to hear the rest of the album when it comes out.
Yeah, thanks for having me so much, James. I appreciate that. And May 20th, the record comes out. And I want you to, if you listen to it, my favorite moment, I think, on the record, and maybe this is something worth mentioning. I'd like to mention this because I really like this. There's a flute and a saxophone player in Rio de Janeiro that I worked with, named Yuri, who's absolutely fantastic. And on the last song on the record, there's a sax solo in the middle of it, and I think it's my favorite moment on the record. And so if you listen to it later on, listen for that sax solo. I don't know why I like it so much, but I really do, because it's great. He did a great job with it. That's why I like it. But yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that now. You got me curious now. I love a good sax solo, I'll tell you that.
Well, it's something that maybe you don't, flute and sax. I don't think either of, I guess there's some flutes and simple things, but there's some more prominent flutes. And I think that might be the only, there's one other song that has sax besides the last song, but it's another one of those things where it's like, you don't necessarily get a chance. It's like, you're not going to go down to the local jam night and be like, hey, sax player, come play on my record just in case. But if you're working with people who are great and they want to play sax, there's a lot more room for freedom and exploration and creativity, where it's like, I wouldn't normally have a sax solo ever, but it's like a thing that kind of people aren't really doing right now, and it's a great instrument, and I feel like it goes in waves. It's like you hear all the great, like Clarence Clemens, Springsteen's sax solos, and sprinkled in David Bowie's catalog throughout the years, who I love. And then it kind of goes in and out of fashion and everything, and great use on Pink Floyd records too. But even within their catalog, it's like an instrument that was in and out of fashion, which I think is also wild. But it's I'm excited for people to hear the sax solo, if nothing else. So if I'm promoting anything, listen to the sax solo on the last song on my record.
What's the last song called?
It's called Love's Not Alone / Parting Ways. So it's two songs. I changed the title. So it's two songs kind of amalgamated into one. It's kind of like two tracks. It's 7.5 minutes long, but the second half of that song is kind of like it's like a not a debrief, but it's kind of like a musical exhale for the record. And I guess, okay, well, maybe, see, this is a rabbit hole. So one other thing that I guess is present on this record, I've done a lot of work in electroacoustic music, which isn't electronic music like dance music. It's like music that's very experimental. In some ways, it's academic. I do a lot of work in soundscape recording, where I'll use the sounds of, I've done a lot of stuff with trains, birds, busy spaces, transportation, to make these electroacoustic albums. And I've actually done concerts around the world playing this music, where you use pre-recorded tracks and kind of present this. It's like very much like more of like an art gallery appropriate thing than a standard concert hall. But with this record, I wanted it to have, because it was kind of a different direction for me. My last band was more of almost like a prog rock kind of thing. This was a very different direction for me, but I wanted other kind of like elements of my musical interests and personality to be present. So on This Could Be Our Year, and similarly to Love, the last track, Love's Not Alone, Parting Ways, I have these electroacoustic elements in the track. And so if you listen, and if you re-listen to This Could Be Our Year, you'll actually hear some of those field recordings and stuff integrated into the song. And that's kind of like another layer of, I guess, my musical interests and perhaps passion, but in a different context, in pop music as opposed to experimental art gallery music. So yeah, and so it's the song's called Love's Not Alone, and that has the sax solo.
And This Could Be Our Year, you said, comes out on May 20th, correct?
May 20th, that's right.
All right, John. Well, thanks again for coming on the show and chatting with me. Let's stay in touch, all right?
That would be great. I'd love to. We can talk again, and you can just tell me what you think instead of me talking, because I'll blab on endlessly for hours.
Sounds good, buddy. I'll talk to you soon, all right?
Okay, thanks, James. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Did you ever think this could be our year? We'll dig it up like buried gold, go to cities we don't know, some distant corner of the world. This could be our year. What else are we gonna do? Otherwise we're just sitting on the ice floe, waiting for the sun to melt us to the ocean, just like the distant corners of the world. With the way things are going, what more can we do? But we'll try. There's no reason to hold on when the candle's dripping wax on the floor. Anymore, have no reason when the game is still the last dance. We can take it back, and this could be our year, could be our year. We could be married, we're old enough now. We'll do it for the party, a solstice in the highlands, make a home in some corner of the world. I will find something, honest work I'll do from home. You could mind the garden just like you always wanted, planting seeds for next year. We'll stay in when it's cold. And with the way love is growing, what more can we do? But we'll try. There's no reason to hold off when the candle's dripping wax all on the floor. Anymore, have no reason where the game is still the last dance, but we can take it back, and this could be our year, could be our year. Oh, still chasing dragons, melodies in the air, and I hope I catch a good one. chase it to the cold